Oh boy.
On eBay, you know, the multinational online marketplace. Today, we'll be talking about the strangest eBay listings ever found. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. As you guys can see, the stubble is coming back. It's about time. There you go.
W
You guys can
Tov.
see it. Maybe it's time to shave. I don't know. Maybe I might keep it. I don't know. Dude, if you guys saw the last video, you guys know, literally disgusting. I'm sorry you guys have to see me like baby face. I'm actually sorry. I apologize. First YouTube apology right here, guys. I'm sorry, that was horrible. But before we get into the topic, I do want to let you guys know that in 2 weeks, I will be announcing something a little bit different. Human brains in a jar. So you're browsing eBay on a random Tuesday night, maybe looking for vintage collectibles or weird antiques, when you stumble across something that makes you do a double take. 6 jars of what appears to be human brain tissue. Yes, human brain tissue listed for $600 plus another $70 for shipping. Now, most people would probably scroll past that, assuming it's some sort of sick joke. Or maybe you would do a little bit of detective work. I would trust that you guys would do a little bit of detective work. But in Brian Kubasco from San Diego's case, he went all in. He actually bought them. And honestly, it did lead to a good thing because that decision saved dozens of other preserved organs from being sold on eBay as well. Anyway, this whole bizarre story starts with David Charles, a 23-year-old from Indianapolis who was
How the hell did this guy get a hold of 2 brains? He don't even got one in his head.
desperately looking for ways to make some quick cash. And when I say desperate, I mean the guy was willing to break into a medical museum to steal century-old human brains, multiple times. The target was the Indiana Medical History Museum, which sits on the grounds of what used to be Central State Hospital. Now, don't take the term hospital here to mean the typical hospitals we know. No. This was actually an asylum that had housed patients with psychiatric and mental disorders from 1848 all the way to 1994. So it was basically an old mental health facility.
He was holding the tweets.
During those years, doctors performed autopsies on some of the patients who died there, preserving their brain tissue in jars to study mental illness. We're talking about specimens that date back from the 1890s through the 1940s. So Charles figured out how to break into this place, and he wasn't exactly subtle about it. Between October and December of 2013, he made multiple trips, each time walking out with jars of preserved human tissue. And as crazy as it all sounds, something tells us Charles knew something wasn't right with what he was doing, because he wasn't selling these directly on eBay himself. He had a middleman named Austin Rector handling the actual online sales. So yeah, he was stealing them, but he was smart enough not to expose himself that easily. Almost. The thing is, eBay has pretty strict policies.
I want to find a used fucking, a used dirty sock. Crusty as all hell on eBay, dude. A pack of them. Crustacean socks.
Policies on
brand new
remains. Like, it's completely forbidden.
Or barely
but somehow
used, actually.
These listings were slipping through, and people were actually buying them. The executive director of the museum, Mary Ellen Hennessy Nottage, later said there's apparently a growing trend of people collecting macabre oddities, partly fueled by shows like Oddities on TV, a reality series about a New York shop that sells bizarre medical specimens, antique skulls, and all things weird and creepy. But Charles made one crucial mistake during his crime spree. During one of his break-ins, he somehow left behind a piece of paper with his bloody fingerprint on it, just sitting there in the museum like a calling card. When investigators ran that
might as well drop a used condom
Charles'
on the
left
floor.
pinky finger perfectly. Then the whole scheme started unraveling.
You literally dropped your
Kubasco,
fingerprint
that
on a
San Diego
piece of
collector
paper
I
for
mentioned
him.
that bought it. So he received his $600 purchase and started examining the jars more closely. He noticed official labels on the containers and something just fell off. Just throwing my 2 cents here, maybe the thing that fell off was you buying brains in a jar off eBay. But let's continue. So he started researching online. When he compared his jars to specimens he found on the museum's website, he realized he probably bought stolen goods. So Kubasco called the museum directly, and that's when it all hit the fan. Mary Ellen, the museum director, immediately contacted Indianapolis police. Detectives traced the eBay transactions back to Austin Rector, who eventually admitted he'd been getting the brain tissue from Charles. And if that wasn't enough, the story gets even crazier. Police decided to set up a sting operation, and they chose the most Indiana location possible, a Dairy Queen parking lot. On December 16th, 2013, Rector arranged for Charles for another handoff, but the day before this meeting, Charles had stolen 60 more jars of human tissue from the museum. This guy was basically running a human organ trafficking operation out of a...
This dude is really stealing fucking 100-year-old organs. Buddy. For what? You're selling them for like $50.
When the deal went down, police moved in to make the arrest. They recovered a total of 80 jars of human tissue. But it wasn't just brains. Charles had also stolen an EKG machine, about 10 medical scopes, a baby scale, and various other historical items from the museum. The dude was basically cleaning out the museum piece by piece. Anyway, he was charged with felony theft, burglary, and drug-related charges. He then pled guilty to 6 of these charges. In November of 2015, he was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Though 3 of those years were suspended, he got 1 year of home detention, 2 years of probation, and was ordered to stay away from the museum permanently. John F. Kennedy.
Well, I'd hope so. Yeah, they told him to stay away from the fucking museum that he just robbed. I'd hope so, man.
Bloodstained long johns.
JFK's bloodstained fucking undies?
Dallas, Texas. President
His
John F.
britches?
Kennedy was riding in an open-top motorcade when shots rang out, ending the life of America's 35th president in one of the most shocking moments in U.S. history. The assassination itself became a phenomenon, a story whose every angle became like a piece of evidence discussed in many forms. And yes, such discussions include his underwear. Actually, this is one of the listings that is available right now. Someone on eBay is selling a pair of JFK's bloodstained long johns for a cool $1 million. But maybe like me, you're not familiar with vintage men's fashion. So
how did they get their hands on these shits, bro? How did they get JFK's bloodstained britches? That shit got passed down to the wrong guy.
So basically, long johns are just full-body thermal underwear. Think of them as the 1960s version of moisture-absorbing base layers, except way less comfortable and made of scratchy wool. So how exactly did we get to a point where someone is trying to auction a dead president's underwear on the internet?
For $1 million.
It turns out that these particular long johns have been making headlines for decades, way before they even hit eBay. The trail starts back in 1954, just a year after JFK married Jackie Kennedy. Apparently, Jackie had received a ton of expensive wedding gifts that she didn't want to keep. Nearly 100 pieces of crystal, glassware, and other fancy items. So she decided to sell them to a Washington, D.C. antique dealer, and when she was packing up all these delicate items for transport, she used her husband's old long john underwear as wrapping material. The antique dealer's widow, Jeanette Trayton, later described Jackie as being pretty cold-blooded about the whole thing. She said Jackie didn't care who knew she was selling off her wedding gifts, but whatever, to each their own. So fast forward to 1998.
The dirty bitch.
These long johns end up at a Guernsey's Kennedy auction as lot number 254. They're bought by a memorabilia dealer named Richard Wilson, who specialized in these kind of presidential collectibles. The New York Post even ran a photo.
Alright, why was this guy holding it like this, dude? Why was he holding it like this? Come on.
Up the underwear, which must have been a surreal moment for everyone involved, especially him. I mean, just look at how happy he is. And the thing is, there were actually 2 pairs sold at that auction. Wilson kept one and sold the other to Heritage Auctions. The Heritage pair was in much better condition, barely worn, with crisp labels still intact. But the pair that's on eBay right now, that's the one JFK actually wore regularly. It's got holes in it, showing serious wear and tear from frequent use. Wilson listed these well-worn long johns in his mail order catalog named Norma's Jeans, and in 2002, someone bought them in a private sale and then stuck them in a secure vault for nearly 20 years. Until now, of course. But that's not where the story ends. When the current owner decided to get new photos taken for the eBay listing, the photographer noticed something nobody had seen before: bloodstains. Dark stains near the ankle area that looked suspiciously like dried blood. So they theorized that JFK had injured his lower shin area just above the ankle, and the blood had trickled down his leg when he was standing upright. Although this isn't 100% confirmed, it's still
that's
sells.
fucking ketchup sauce. He was eating some fries.
The dead president definitely adds to its value. The seller says they're planning to have the stains tested, quote, CSI style, to determine whether it's blood or rust. Which, honestly, yeah, it sounds like something that should have been done before listing it for $1 million. But, hey, what do I know? Anyway, this seller has decent reviews and seems pretty confident someone's gonna bite. Hey, Mr. Beast, if you're somehow watching this, maybe you could buy John F. Kennedy's underwear for $1 million. But if you're not quite ready to drop $1 million on JFK's underwear but still want a piece of presidential history, don't worry. The same seller is also offering a 15-inch piece of wood lathing from Abraham Lincoln's law office for just $1,750, and by that I mean $1,700.
Oh, I thought that was $1 million. I was about to say they're auctioning a piece of wood that they don't even know. I literally could get a piece of wood and say Abraham Lincoln put his ass cheeks on it. Who would know any better? Unless somebody knows what Abraham Lincoln's ass cheeks smell like. I'm getting away with it.
$50. Most possessed doll in the UK. Alright, so look, when I talk about ghosts or possessions on this channel, it always is 50-50. I remember back in 2023, I talked about ghosts and I was like, yo, I'm a believer. I believe in this is creepy. And a lot of the comments were like, wow, Tuv, how do you believe in this fake stuff? And then, as time goes
I don't believe a fucking single thing about ghosts. Until I get punched in the balls. Y'all know this. Till I get punched in the balls. I don't believe in ghosts.
on, as time went on, right? I changed my mind. I'm like, nah, I don't think ghosts are real. And then the comments are just like, how do you not believe in ghosts? So, you know what? I don't know. My answer is I don't know, okay? The world is beautiful. Spirituality is beautiful. That's what I'm gonna keep it at. If you believe in ghosts, if you don't, that's cool. But I still do think these cases are interesting. That doesn't change that fact though. But anyway, I just want to make that clear because y'all were flaming me a little bit. Y'all were flaming me just a little bit, but you know what? It's interesting, and I think that's the most important part. So back in 2023, Candace Collins was scrolling through eBay when she found this doll. Blonde hair, striped shirt, innocent baby face, but the seller claimed this toy had caused exploding appendixes, shootings, car troubles, and mysterious injuries. And they were asking $260 for it. Is this a case of someone being crazy or?
Bro, if you had something that was causing a bunch of bad luck, why the fuck wouldn't you just get rid of it? Why would you try to sell it? Like, you're like, I gotta get my value for it. You're fucking every day something bad keeps happening to you. You're like, I gotta get my money back, dude. I gotta get my money back for this thing. $200.
Is this a case of a haunted doll? I guess we're about to find out. So she did
just
what
shit myself for the past
for this to end up in the video,
2 months straight.
And she hit buy it now.
I'm holding
so
it
might
though.
sound like an impulsive purchase,
Till
but
it gets the right price.
Candace is a 44-year-old paranormal hunter from Cornwall who collects haunted dolls for a living. Think of her as someone who actively seeks out the kind of stuff most people would find creepy or weird from the sense of it's haunted. She's got an entire collection of supposedly cursed toys, and she was looking to add what the seller claimed was the most possessed doll in the UK to her roster. So let's talk about that cute doll, shall we? So, its name is Norman. His previous owner, Christian Hawksworth, had bought Norman for about $4 at an
Why is this doll war farming on me right now?
A cute vintage toy. Instead, he got what he believed was a one-way ticket to hell. After bringing Norman home, Hawksworth's life basically fell apart. His appendix exploded, and then he got shot, and then his car started having multiple constant problems. His salary got severely slashed at work. The guy went from having a normal life to dealing with a string of catastrophes that would make anyone question their life choices. So naturally, Hawksworth decided to let the doll go. He listed Norman on eBay with a full disclosure of all the terrible things that have happened since he'd owned the doll. Most people would probably doubt the listing and just scroll past, but Candace, given her nature of work, saw this as an opportunity. Now the thing is, when you're in a business of collecting haunted objects, a doll with that kind of track record is basically the holy grail. When the package arrived at Candace's house, she knew immediately that she'd gotten exactly what she'd paid for. The moment she opened the box, the temperature in the room allegedly plummeted. She described feeling a heavy depression filling the air, like the doll had brought its own personal storm cloud with it. To contain that a bit, she put Norman in a glass doll with some holy water, just like the Warrens did with the Annabelle doll. But even contained, Norman wasn't done causing problems. Candace says the doll, quote, fills her bones with dread, end quote. The nightmares started almost immediately. Candace began waking up in a panic, feeling like she was being attacked by invisible figures. She claims she felt something bite her hand during the night and has heard what she describes as an evil voice calling her name while she sleeps. And the physical effects have been just as bad as the previous owner experienced. Candace developed arthritis and started getting frequent headaches. Random bruises began appearing on her body with no explanation. She found what looked like deep claw marks scratched into her back. Her partner Nick's hip problems got so much worse that he needed a replacement. But maybe the craziest part is that despite all of these problems, she has absolutely no intention of getting rid of little Norman.
Smart. Yeah, she's fucking smart as hell.
A fully functional kidney. You know that organ donors are hard to come by these days, right? I mean, there are over 90,000 people, for example, waiting for kidney transplants in the US, with an average wait time of more than 3 years. But hear me out. What if the solution...
Somebody was bidding off their own kidney, dude. They're like, well, I need the money. I need to put it on eBay. Fully functioning kidney. We'll give you my kidney for money. We'll give you kidney for Scat Pack.
Your chronic kidney disease was right there on eBay. Back in August of 1999, that's exactly what someone calling themselves Cheryl from Sunrise, Florida decided to offer. They posted a, quote, fully functional kidney for sale. The description was something like, you can choose either kidney. Buyer pays all transplant and medical costs. Of course, only one for sale, as I need the other one to live. Serious business.
He really is selling his own other kidney. I need the other to live. You can choose either kidney. He takes a good one. You just... That'd be pretty funny. He's like, well, I'm gonna take the good one. Dude just dies like a month later.
Now, most people would probably assume this is some kind of joke, but there were enough people who thought it might be legitimate, or who were just curious to see how high the bidding would go, because within a week, the price had reached an absolutely insane $5.7 million. The
5 mil? I was asking for a Hellcat. Shit.
bidding had started at a relatively modest $25,000 on August 26th, which honestly seems like a bargain for a life-saving organ when you consider how desperate people on transplant waiting lists can become. But over the course of just 6 days, the price kept climbing as 7 different bidders got into what was essentially a life-or-death auction war. eBay executives were blissfully unaware of what was happening on their platform until Thursday morning when someone finally reported the listing. The company immediately shut down the auction, but not before it had become
Dude, can you do this? Imagine you start auctioning off your kidney for $1 million. Well, you only need one.
a media sensation, of course. Steve Wesley, eBay's vice president of marketing at the time, said they had zero tolerance for illegal items and were working with law enforcement in Florida to investigate. He pointed out that since everything on the internet is public and traceable, it was probably the worst possible place to try to sell illegal organs. And yes, I don't know if I have to say this very obvious fact, but selling human organs is very much illegal in the US. It's a federal felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison,
Even your
and
own?
a $50,000 fine.
I
though
can't
it
sell
could
my
go as high as
balls?
$250,000. And yes, that's even if you sell it voluntarily. The law exists specifically to prevent the exploitation of poor people who might be tempted to sell their organs for money. An infamous baby prop.
I don't know why that low-key ain't. Shit, man.
Sometimes there are movies so
would
disturbing
work.
that just owning a prop from them feels morally questionable. So we're going to be talking about a Serbian film. No, we're not going to get too deep into it, but I will say a trigger warning for SA and anything under the book for horrific actions. And honestly, even if I wanted to get into it, I couldn't on YouTube. But I will give a big shout out to a channel I've been watching forever. He's super underrated, Spooky Rice. He does disturbing breakdowns, and I remember watching his breakdown on Serbian film like, I don't know, years ago. But I always thought he needed more recognition, so big shout out to Spooky Rice. If you guys want to go check him out, make sure to do so. But anyway, in May of 2018, someone decided it would be a brilliant idea to auction off props from this particular movie on eBay. Not just any props, mind you, but the baby prop used in what's been called one of the most infamously vile scenes in horror history, with a starting bid of $6,000. Now, from what I just said, if you're not familiar with a Serbian film, you should honestly consider yourself lucky. It's the kind of movie that makes people question why it was made in the first place, but I will try my best to catch you guys up without getting too graphic. If you guys do want the whole disturbing
I don't think
breakdown,
I've ever seen
make sure to
this
go check out
bullshit.
Spooky Rice's video. So the film centers around the life of a producer who is semi-retired but still producing films. He's exploring categories and everything. Now, you know how there are different categories of porn on the internet, right? Well, the film ventures off into the illegal side of that. And in the particular scene we're talking about here, he tries to push the boundaries by including a category of the prop we're talking about. I know, it's pretty sick, and I think that's as much as I can say on YouTube, so let's go back to the listing. It was straightforward. The baby that shook the world. This is the original screen-used baby from a Serbian film that featured in one of the most talked about, praised and condemned, censored and celebrated, and downright disgusting scenes in cinema history. This rare one-of-a-kind prop can be yours if the unit price is right. Unbelievably, the auction was part of a larger collection of items from the movie, including costumes, stuffed toys, and other memorabilia that had been displayed at something called a Serbian Film Exhibition in Los Angeles. But eBay wasn't having any of it. After the listings had been live for about a week, the company banned the entire auction and removed all the items. They didn't provide a specific reason, but it's pretty easy to guess that selling props from scenes depicting extreme violence involving depictions of infants probably violated their terms of service in a host of different ways. Unearthed Films wasn't pleased with eBay's decision. In a statement, they complained that eBay, quote, even refused to sell the costumes, stuffed toys, and, well, you know, the other stuff. They argued with eBay for days trying to get the auction reinstated, but ultimately got nowhere. But they kept pushing. They issued a statement saying they were opposed to all forms of censorship and accused eBay of having regressive policies enforced by small-minded people. They
can't even sell their fucking bullshit on eBay.
They don't want to facilitate the sale of props from one of the most controversial movies.
I think I'm glad I
ever
never
made.
seen that movie.
And not even with that, these people wanted to give up. Instead of accepting that maybe something shouldn't be sold on mainstream auction sites, they decided to build their own auction platform specifically for horror fans. Because, and I'm just guessing, there's enough demand for disturbing movie memorabilia to justify creating an entire website around it. Chewing gum spits by a celebrity. Leaving that baby prop behind, let's move on to something somehow less disturbing but still disgusting. That's because in 2004,
Somebody selling Tom Brady's pube hair or something. LeBron James' armpit or toenail clipping. Ooh, baby. Cheeto dust off LeBron James's finger.
The internet discovered that people were willing to pay
For
thousands of
sale.
dollars for something most of us throw in the trash without a second thought: celebrity chewing gum. It all started with Britney Spears, who was at the peak of her pop princess fame and had a habit of spitting her gum out in public places. Someone figured out that literally one person's discarded double bubble could be another person's treasure, and suddenly eBay was flooded with auctions for used chewing gum allegedly chewed by the toxic singer. I'm not calling her toxic. If y'all know, she has a song named Toxic. We're talking about over 24 separate auctions, each claiming to sell authentic Britney chewed gum. Prices range from reasonable, if you can call paying money for used gum reasonable, all the way up to $14,000 for what one seller claimed was gum Spears had chewed during her infamous kiss with Madonna at the 2004 MTV Video Music Awards. Now for Britney, the whole gum thing began when someone claimed they witnessed her spit out her gum in anger outside of her Los Angeles home in early August 2004. They posted it on eBay with photographic evidence and a personal story of procurement, because apparently even celebrity garbage needs a proper chain of custody documentation. The original listing I think did well, and it became the start of an insane trend. Soon enterprising fans were digging through their old concert memorabilia and suddenly, quote, remembering that they'd saved pieces of gums from shows earlier. One seller from London claimed they'd been holding onto a piece of Britney gum from her 2000 Wembley Arena concert for over 3 years, only deciding to sell it because of the, quote, current interest in Miss Spears' habit for discarding gum. Definitely didn't chew the...
Like I said, I wouldn't believe this shit. I would just fucking... I'd like chew a piece of gum, rub it through my ass crack, and say it was Britney Spears, and then whatever happened to that piece of gum happened to it. Hopefully some weirdo put it back in his mouth. That's what you get for being a weirdo, buddy.
That's Britney Spears' gum. He initially thought it would be funny to bring the gum home and show his friends, but then realized he might be sitting on a gold mine. So Johnson initially listed his gum for $1,000, promising buyers that they could take DNA tests to prove that it was the real deal. But the most expensive piece was supposedly from the 2004
DNA test is crazy. They caught me.
Security saw
They
Britney
caught
spit
me.
out the gum and recovered it from the trash. They kept it in a Tupperware container, and they were asking $14,000 for it. Though there was one small problem. Britney didn't actually attend the event, which kind of put a damper on that particular authentication story. It was crazy, and it quickly spread beyond Britney. Suddenly eBay was flooded with gum allegedly chewed by Eminem, Christina Aguilera, and even Jessica Simpson. Virginity.
Yep, they were finessing.
Yes, you heard that right. So how do you put a price on something that's supposedly priceless? Well, if you're a broke college student in 2004, apparently the answer is put it up on eBay and see what happens. That's exactly what 19-year-old David Vardy from Bournemouth University decided to do when he put his virginity up for auction on the world's most popular marketplace. Not his textbooks, not his guitar, not even his kidney, but his actual...
He did? He did? He did. Oh, memoria.
virginity. He told reporters that by age 19, most people had been under enough pressure to lose their virginity, but he hadn't lost his yet. So being what he called a quote creative person, he figured the most crazy way to handle the situation was to stick it out on the internet and see what interest he'd get. The auction was a massive hit, generating over 7,000 views from places as far away as Australia and Texas. Vardy claimed he received 8 serious offers from potential partners, with bids coming close to $11,000.
Oh my god,
it's a
dude.
pretty decent investment for something people usually give up for free.
This is actually insane.
He said he was carefully sorting through entries, looking for quality over quantity. He mentioned that some bidders had more money than sense, while others seemed like jokers. He was trying to avoid what he diplomatically called losers and stalkers. I laughed at that line because, I don't know, it just seems kind of funny when you're trying to sell your virginity and calling other people losers, but hey, you make your bag, bruh. Some of the offers were apparently from models, including one from London who was initially interested but backed out due to media attention. Now, I don't know if this crossed your mind, but isn't this just prostitution? Well, Vardy insisted that it wasn't, though that distinction probably would have been lost on most law enforcement agencies. He planned to take himself off the auction block at the end of the week and promised he wouldn't back out at the last minute.
Off the auction block?
This story sort of sounds like a one-off case of millennial desperation, but it turns out that Vardy was actually ahead of his time. Fast forward to 2023, and a 22-year-old student named Laura made Vardy's $11,000 look like pocket change when she sold her virginity for £1.6 million to what she described as an extreme
1.6 million pounds. Bro. You fucking joking me? You joking me, bro?
Actor from Los Angeles, but her approach was way more sophisticated than Vardy's DIY eBay auction. She went through Cinderella escorts, submitted an application, attended events to meet potential buyers, and participated in a competitive bidding process. Her auction attracted bids from a London politician and a Dubai businessman before the Hollywood actor ultimately won with his 8-figure offer. Then the whole deal went down like a high-end business transaction.
8-figure? Bro. You joking me, dude? This bitch got like 10 mil.
Actor at a fancy London hotel with a rep from the escort site there too. They had a quick getting to know you chat so she could share her preferences and feel comfortable. The buyer even brought a doctor to confirm her virginity and all. I didn't even know that was, you know what, whatever. Laura said she was more excited than nervous, and a year later had no regrets. She figured she'd probably lose her virginity to someone who wouldn't marry her anyway, so why not get paid for it? Like, if this wasn't weird already from the Hollywood actor. But there's one more really crazy thing about it. We'll probably never find out who this famous Hollywood actor is, but Laura herself was shocked when she later found out that that person had previously visited Jeffrey Epstein's notorious island. A probably not surprising twist.
Oh, hot dog. Check them lists.
Most frightening mask on the internet. This is Casey Anthony, and back in 2011, she was making headlines for all the wrong reasons. The 25-year-old
This bitch so
Florida
crazy.
mother had just walked out of an Orange County courthouse as a free woman after being acquitted of murdering her 2-year-old daughter Kaylee.
Oh yeah,
The
she
nation
crazy.
was absolutely furious. Here was someone most people believed had gotten away with killing her own child, and she was just walking free. So naturally, within days of this controversial verdict, someone thought, you know what the world needs right now? A latex mask of Casey Anthony's face I can sell for millions of dollars. Well, nearly $1 million. Someone calling themselves Prop Hunter from Los Angeles put a Casey Anthony mask on eBay and actually managed to sell it for $999,900. It started basic enough.
This
The
dude
mask was
became a
supposedly
millionaire for
created
making
some
this mask.
parody video by an artist called Toro, and only 9 were ever made. Prop Hunter claimed he got his hands on a few when production wrapped and decided to auction off number 6 of 9. The bidding started at $25 on Sunday, but by Wednesday morning, it had somehow reached over $25,000 and people were apparently just getting started. The real action happened in the final hours when the price jumped from $50,000 to $700,000 in about 2 hours.
Oh my God.
The final auction received 105 bids, though 16 got retracted because people either made mistakes or eBay questioned whether they were legitimate. But there were at least 4 accounts bidding with over $700,000. That means multiple people thought it was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to own a Halloween mask of someone accused of killing their toddler. What do you even do with that? Now, whether the winner bidder actually paid up remains a mystery, since they had no bid history and could easily have backed out. But even if they did, it remains true that there were several other people willing to pay hundreds of thousands for the same thing, which honestly might be the most disturbing part of the story other than it being made in the first place. Internet's most haunted painting. A young boy with hollow, stone-cold eyes staring directly at
Why is he
you.
mogging on
Standing
me?
Next to him is what looks like a girl, but something's off about her. She's got this doll-like quality with no eyes at all, just dark, empty sockets. In her hands, she's holding some strange device with wires coming out of the top, and behind them, peering through darkened windows, are dozens of small hands reaching out towards the boy. Tiny, creepy hands that many people believe belong to children. The painting, called The Hands Resist Him, was put up for sale on eBay in February of 2000, and the sellers claimed it was haunted. The couple selling it had quite the story. They'd gotten the painting from someone who found it abandoned behind an old brewery, which should have been red flag number 1, but they thought they'd scored some decent art and brought it home. That's when their 4.5-year-old daughter started having problems. She kept complaining that the children in the painting were fighting and coming into her room during the night. Now, the mom didn't believe in supernatural stuff, but her husband started to get seriously freaked out. So they did what
Dude, they found it behind
old
old brewery.
Kid
Yeah,
claims a
fuck
painting was
that.
haunted. They set up a motion
Shit was
capture
old as
camera for
dirt.
3 nights to catch whatever was happening. And turns out, it looks like they actually got something. The photo allegedly showed the boy in the painting stepping out of the frame while the eyeless doll was threatening him. And they decided this thing had to go immediately. So they listed it on eBay and made sure to warn everyone, don't bid if you're
What's
faint
up,
of heart
Olag?
or not familiar with supernatural stuff. The thing is, the painting actually had a normal backstory. William Stoneham painted it in 1972 based on a childhood photo. The hands were supposed to be other lives. The glass door is a barrier between dreams and reality. The creepy eyeless girl is a spiritual guide. Classic artsy stuff. But then it got even more weird. It was shown in a Beverly Hills gallery, reviewed by LA Times critic Henry Seldis, and bought by the Godfather actor John Marley. Within a few years, Seldis died, the gallery owner died,
just clips it.
Marley died in '84, the painting disappeared for 16 years. When it resurfaced on eBay, people freaked out. Over 30,000 views. Some said just seeing the image online made them feel sick, nausea, dread, even panic. But despite the haunting backstory, someone in Michigan bought it for $1,025 and has kept it locked in their storage ever since. By the way,
1,000?
this is one of those paintings where you need to type, "I will not
This
let
old ass
negative energy
painting?
contact me."
This
So you
random
leave that in the
painting?
comments, guys. Please spam the comments. The algorithm will love it. I'm just kidding. You don't need to spam any comments for any of these, okay? So no, this isn't no Robert the Doll, negative energy. This isn't that, okay? But you could comment, why is Tub hot? You could ask a question. Why is he so hot? I don't know myself.
Watching the strangest eBay listings ever found.
Bear with me.